Go ahead and start recording. So if you guys can go ahead and accept that. Um,
Got it.
I want to, yeah, what I'm going to do right now, and I think I may pull the trigger on this sooner than later. I may switch the saving of all of this stuff into Slack. The one question I'm having right now is if I post all this information in the private Zoom, in the private Facebook group, is it private? Can Facebook use it? I've been told that if it's in a private group, they don't take access to that. Obviously, anything on our personal pages, pictures and stuff, they can use those things for marketing. So I want to make sure that we're not posting anything in the Facebook groups, and I'm waiting for confirmation on it. I've got two people said yes. One person said I think so. One person said no. So I'm going to one other person that I know who uses this extensively to get her opinion on it, and then I'm going to make a decision. I know in Slack it's going to be fine. So regardless, just keep, be flexible with me. Now, what I'd like to do is I want you first to both kind of just, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? We can mute when the other person's talking, but why don't you go ahead and start? Whoever wants to go first, raise your hand and you can go from there. Who wants to introduce himself? Tell them what your name is, what you do, and what one of your biggest goals is for 2023. Rohit, why don't you go?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rohit. I run the 1% Travel Club, which is a luxury travel advisory and consultancy where I help people essentially travel in more luxury while saving thousands in the process, essentially helping people maximize the value of their travel dollars, what I call it. And my goal here is to essentially solidify my offer and scale.
Nice. Okay. You just jumped in again, Michael. Okay, you're muted on both now. Now you disappeared.
And now I'm here. Here we go. See, now I'm on the computer and we can do stuff. All right. Turn my video on.
There we go.
Crap. Oh, hey. Crap. And there's me. Hey. We appearing. Okay. So Michael Geese. So actually I have crap in the background, but that's something else, I guess. I have handyman business. And so the goal this year is to make 6 figures without interfering or without, I say, undue interfering on family time.
Yeah. Michael is very involved with his kids. And how old are your kids now?
We are at now 9, 13, 14-year-old freshman. So it'll be 15, but it's going to take a while. And 17-year-old.
Yeah. So if you're looking for motivation, that's all you got to go. Just put their pictures right up in front of you. There's what and I've noticed with the food in the background as they get older, they don't eat less, do they?
No, they don't. And then and it's crazy, but yeah, they especially because they all play sports. They're all in scouts. They're all going. I mean, they also play a lot of video games.
Yeah, and I think you said one of your kids should be an Eagle Scout this year, right?
Hopefully, September, October, she should be able to make Eagle Scout. So
that's awesome. A lot of people don't know what that is entailed, but that's actually a big deal. That's no small feat. That takes years of work, and so yeah, that's awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do today is I want to kind of set the stage of you got your, we're going to have different types of businesses coming in here. You're coming in at different stages. I think the goal is both of you guys want to have multiple 6-figure businesses and growing from there. And, you've got your handyman business. You've had other businesses in the past, Michael, or if you've got your full-time consulting gig, but this is something you're doing on the side that you want to build into a full-time income, but a full-time time scale. And that's really the goal of what most people say when they get into business. They always say, I want to be my own boss, make my own hours, and, I want to be financially free. Now, and raise your hand if you've ever said that yourself. Okay,
I'm the worst boss I've ever had.
Yeah, I had a boss one time when I was at Enterprise. My father told me real son, he goes, son, here's the deal: learn the system, perform well, get to the top. You have a voice. Otherwise, you're a whiner. And he says, you want to have operations, be a top producer. And that's totally true. As it was with the people that I've hired in the past, those that were big producers, you tolerated some of their opinions sometimes more than the others. But there always comes a point where, listen, you don't own this. We've had to have those kind of conversations a couple of times. Yet the flip side is, when you're working for a company, the challenge that one of the challenges people have when they get into entrepreneurship is they say, hey, I was a consultant. I've worked with lots of different companies, or I was a, regional this, or I was even a president or VP or whatever it is, VP means nothing if you're in banking, you'd be there 6 months, they'll give you that title. But they get in this idea because societally speaking, people have a title related, position related leadership structure. And really it's a true pyramid. A corporation is a true pyramid. You get to a certain point where somebody's got to die, retire, get fired, or quit to go any higher. Now, the bigger the company, the more movements you have. And I think, yeah, and I just read an article the other day where it was saying that people who jump jobs will make about 15.3% more over time versus those that stay. It was like 7%. You guys may have seen that on LinkedIn. It's been kind of going around. I've seen it circle around a few times. However, what's that?
I'm proof of that. I job hopped 3 times during the pandemic, and my salary went up 100%.
That's crazy. I had another client of mine where his wife did the same thing. She says 3.5 times. She goes, the one time I was there 4 months, they gave me nothing to do. They were still figuring out. They just thought like, well, we're going to get to you. And needless to say, that was just shy of 2 years ago. That company's now defunct.
Wow.
We're just hiring. But I've seen that a lot. Now, here's the problem. When you come into these structures, we can get delusions of our own grandeur sometimes. We like to throw the title of president and CEO and blah, blah. I just had a conversation with a client the other day. I said, take off all of this stuff. Who are you trying to impress? That's coming from a place of ego or insecurity. If they found you here, they don't need to know all these titles and, fancy little things. People like to introduce themselves. We've all been on a Zoom meeting and I listen to some people introduce themselves. Michael, he co-leads a networking group here, out in the, kind of by the O'Hare area called Cup of Joe. And I look at some of these introductions and I cringe. I truly cringe. Because they actually could be a good person, have a good product or service, but yet this is your one shot, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, part of what we're going to talk on, we're going to get into is really crafting what I call a really powerful positioning statement. Some people call it core unique positioning statement. I've also heard it called a market dominating position. I've taught it that way before. But the thing is, what makes you unique and so good that they'd be crazy not to want to talk to you? Because, it's cliche, but if you look like everyone else and you sound like everyone else, you are like everyone else. And now in the handyman business, that's going to be very easy to say, oh, yeah, I'm a handyman, but it's kind of like when I was in the mortgage business, people say, so what do you do? I said, I help individuals leverage debt and reduce, increase cash flow and reduce debt so they can be financially free, and using unique mortgage products that no one's ever seen before. What? Okay. I was a loan officer, right? I own a mortgage company. But if I say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a mortgage broker, or I own a mortgage company. Oh, okay. Conversation stops. Now, what they just put me in a box is someone else they know or some experience they've had, which could be good or bad, right? So some of you, when you work for a big company, you're like, oh, I work for Deloitte, I work for PwC, or I work for Enterprise. They lean on that. And I'm telling you right now, the problem with it is you come away from this, well, they care about branding. I'm going to tell you guys, your brand don't mean squat at this point. Your image, that you actually present to people does. But watch out when the marketing world's like, oh, I'm a brand ambassador, I'm going to help you with your branding. You're too damn small. And to be a really known brand, you're not Coke. You're not Bank of America. You're not going to be known like that. What they're going to know is, how do they find you? In the beginning, you're going to start with word of mouth. Ultimately, you want to learn how to, and I'm going to teach you guys some strategies to leverage word of mouth strategically, not just winging it, going into networking groups. I teach people how to network because they go there and, depending which event you go to, some of them become just more social hours. I will personally never join a BNI, never join a late tip, never join most of these groups. And quite frankly, most networking groups, because they become more social hours and they don't have my ideal client that we're looking for, right? So I want you guys to be thinking about that. All right, where do I spend my time? Because you're busy. You have families, you have businesses. So if you're going to spend your time and your resources someplace, be very selective. not rude, not arrogant, but you have to be selfish with your time a little bit. Okay. So now we've all been to like Tony P's events and stuff. And I like Tony and Greg. They're good guys. But when I went to those events, first of all, I was introduced to those actually by a guy that Mike and I know, Dave Culver. He introduced me to them originally years ago, right when they're launching. And I got to know them personally. I went right to them and said, hey, what is it you guys are trying to do here? What can I do to help? How can I help you guys expand? And they're like, oh, because what does most everybody do? They want to meet them and they want to take from their network. So I bought them lunch. We had coffee. I bought them lunch. I invited them together. I made some introductions. I did stuff in the beginning. And then occasionally I gave some advice based on my experience. You might want to think about this. Like, oh, wow, that's really great. I did that probably a few times before they said, or they go, dude, what can I do to help you? Who can I introduce you to? In those initial stages, guys, I have a few clients that have been with me now for years that have paid me six figures, multiple six figures, actually, just because I invested a couple $100 and some time getting to know what do they need, what's in it for them. Now, if you become that person and you're known as that person, I tell you, your business, especially in a business like a handyman business, where it is going to be grossly profitable for you, and you're not going to have to negotiate as much on rates, on costs. Your value proposition immediately goes up. Right. And I want you to think about it, because part of what I'm going to do each week is I'm going to give you some things where I'm going to, I'm going to call it kind of weekly growth activities. So you're this is not a static listen. Okay, great. Come back and get motivated. No, it's going to be, here's some stuff I want you to work on. I want you to upload it into Facebook because you're going to have access to me. Now, here's how this works. I'm going to give you some stuff. You don't have to get it back. But if you want to grow, you want this thing to work for you, you want to get a great positive return, and you want to have the goals that you're talking about, well, then you're going to need some feedback. So I can't help you if you don't give me some feedback. Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right. Second of all, when you put that in, if you have questions as you're going along, you can ask me up to a question a day. I don't want 5 freaking emails no, but I am giving you access to me right now. That very well may change as this grows. But I do know I could have 100 people in a group, 10 or 15 will be contacting me frequently. That's just the numbers. I just know the law of large numbers. 2080. My experience, 90, 95, 5, 10.
That's the 2080 of the 2080.
Yep.
Ever heard of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we go through this. What I want you to start thinking about is day one, I want you to start thinking like a CEO. We all want to, there's that proud thing of bootstrapping. Been there, done it, still do it on certain things. Okay. I follow my advice about 98% of the time. Okay. Full disclosure. There's times where I need someone else to say, why are you doing that? What is it going to cost to have somebody that? I'm like, yeah, you're right. And they'll probably do it better. But that's a challenge. Some people delegate too quickly. They try to develop systems before they know what the hell they're doing, before they've ever had a client. So as you're working together, one of the things that I've done, like with Rohith, is that we've met, talked a couple of times, and I'm like, this is a sharp guy. I said, he's more than what his job is. He's got an entrepreneurial spirit. I said, I like him. He was totally, let's just say there was that fine line between confidence and cocky when we first met. I'm going to be totally honest. I said, I like this guy. I said, he's super confident. We had this, I think we ended up getting into like a political and economics discussion and whatnot the first time. And but I enjoyed it. I'm like, all right, I like this guy,
Borderline existential.
Yeah, that's true, and because it was an interesting conversation, right? And when you go to a lot of these things, you notice most people are like, oh, so what do you do? I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that. Tell me a little about what brings you here today. What was your goal when you came here today? What were you hoping to achieve by coming here today? And then you ask questions like, and I did this with when I do a breakthrough review with clients, and I did one yesterday with these folks I met in Indianapolis. And I said, what is your ideal client? Because they're transitioning their business, because they used to manage races and triathlons and events all over the country. Well, needless to say, COVID crushed that business, right? They had investors. I mean, they were scaling big. They got all the investors to scale right when everything hit.
Sure. course.
not a good time to get investors, right? Your whole business just goes under. So they're reformatting. And so I said, who is your ideal client moving forward? Okay, now we asked that question, and I said, all right, let me ask this another way. Who would be a great introduction for me? If I came across somebody, what should I be listening for to introduce somebody to you who is a great client, potential client? The other question is, who is not a good client? I will tell you in the beginning, this is what you're going to start figuring out as you go along. Who is not a good client can actually make you more successful than who is a good client.
I have a buddy. He's not actually really doing construction anymore. He does more furniture refinishing and some stuff. But he was getting into handyman and construction as I was getting out during the recession. And but I'd still, like, sometimes people call me and I'd do some work or here, there, whatever. But you could listen and you knew who you didn't want to go work with. Mm-hmm. And we used to laugh because I used to send him all the worst people.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to call Jay.
Well, that's one way to get your client, your competition kind of uploaded. But so let's stay with that then. So, all right.
Let me ask you. It was out of love. He sent me.
I understand. So let's stay here. So let's stay with the point where, and I'm going to have you guys work through this. But right now, Rohit, define for me who is your ideal client that you think as of right now.
So from having met less than ideal clients to people that really do work well, I would say my ideal client is an online business owner who is looking to travel more as a digital nomad, or just travel more, and is based in the US or Canada.
Interesting. So when you say an online business owner, what type of online business owner? That's pretty broad, but almost all businesses are doing business online now.
Yeah, so I would say more like a solopreneur. Someone who has a business that's going, 10 to 50K a month, who is like, okay, well, I've got the freedom now. I want to travel more, or I want to make traveling my lifestyle. Those are usually my best clients, the people that come to me that actually execute on what I show them how to do.
Okay. And when you say 10 to 50K, travel is travel is one of those things a lot. I would say it's probably one of the top 5 things people say they want to do more of. Spend time with family, travel, have free time. I one of mine when I got started was, what's one of your biggest goals when you started your business? I said, I want to wake up when I'm done sleeping. That was one of my goals. I go, what? I go, I don't want to wake up to an alarm clock. Yeah. I woke up to an alarm clock for freaking years. Now, the problem is I still wake up around the same time I used to, if not even earlier sometimes. Yet it was that whole game of, okay, I can listen to this radio station and these DJs for so many times a morning. Okay, then I got to switch it. I got to go to the buzzer. And then you go through this whole game of the whole thing that you go through every day. So it's just waking up when I'm done sleeping, So you say solopreneur. Okay. You also threw out influencer. You threw out.
I didn't say influencer.
I thought you said influencer in your first.
I didn't say influencer.
Okay. All right. So influencer is not. All right, good. So we'll rule out influencer.
The reason why is most influencers are broke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I bought a program called Exotic Car Hacks.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I told you about it. And I went through there and he says right on there, he says, listen, if you're buying this just because you want to look good to people, but you really can't afford it, he goes, don't stop. Because his real business is trying to teach people how to make exotic cars as an alternative investment strategy. And the extra benefit is, and you get to drive a really nice car on the weekends. Okay. Some of these cars I don't recommend you drive more than 2,000 miles a year. Let them sit. He's got some cars, he's got millions of dollars of cars sitting that he will not drive other than to keep the seals going and keep them just, maintained right. All right. So when I would challenge you though, is to think of, not now, but to think of going a little deeper with that, just because they say the riches is in the niches. If you ever heard that phrase. So, and then the fortune's in the follow-up. Both cliche phrases, but absolutely true. Right. So you want to start thinking and trying, you might want to test certain groups, solopreneurs. Obviously, there's a lot of, let's say, business consultants, business coaches, strategists, whatever. My God, that's a freaking title everyone throws out there, right? But there's an industry there. They are they talk about lifestyle, but as your point, most of them don't make a lot of money. Most people in general don't make a lot of money.
Right.
Do you guys know what the average income is in the United States for a family of 4?
50, 60K.
Yeah, just over 60, between 60 and 70, depending on who you talk to. For a family of 4. And by the way, 74% of families are dual income. Uh-huh. Wow. So think about that. Yeah, we forget what that's like. But yet, so when a lot of those people start stepping into, of course, they'd love to travel. Now, depending on your price structures, which we'll get into in other times, is you want to have some tiers. Because you have some people that might want to have an ongoing membership-based connected site where there's cash flow coming in, recurring income from your business, but you want to have a DIY evergreen type program that they can purchase, have something where they connect with you, get a little bit of information, and then have an evergreen program that they can purchase that they do not talk to you. Best case scenario, you have a Facebook group, they connect in that you're constantly posting and getting value to, and maybe you comment here and there, but you're not actually spending, they're not getting you.
So this is interesting because this is actually where I struggle, because I feel like people come to me and I'm maybe this comes from the fact that I'm a complete people pleaser, but I kind of do what they want. You know what I mean? It's very much like, oh, I actually want you to book my travel. Because when I initially started this out, I was like, I'm literally just going to consult with you on how to do this, how to do that. And then some people are like, oh, can you just actually start booking travel for me? Can you start doing this for me? And one person even said after a certain point, and he's like, look, I didn't get much value from this. I'm like, well, yeah, because you never looked at the strategy guide I sent you. And all you did was just make me book flights for you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where it's like, I struggle with, there are people who want different things from me. There are people who want to offload their travel to me. There are people who want to offload their travel and want me to take care of the whole points and rewards game. Yep. There are people who are like, I just want to learn this once, and like, I want you to teach me how to do it. And there's all that. And then I've come to figure out that the people that I think are the best, like that I would not mind, working with the most, are the people who are like, okay, I want you to take care of the travel and do the rewards for me because I can charge them a higher price point. And I also get people who are like, they travel once or twice a year, and they're like, well, I can't justify spending X amount of money for your program because that's more than the cost of a flight itself, which I understand.
Sure. So that's part of what I'm talking about, because you're still, even though you've been in business for a while, you are starting to look at this, and you're making investments like in programs like this too. I want you to look at this as a business, not a side hustle, not a thing that I can make an extra 3 or 4 or 5 grand a month. But if you want to start cracking out an extra 10, 20, 30,000 a month, that's a very different focus. You have to look at it. And part of that comes from, and no different than what I've done in the consulting world, I've worked with different types of clients to find out, okay, I really made a lot of money doing this, but I didn't enjoy it. Shut it down. Okay. I've had other things that I'm like, I really enjoy doing this, but I don't really make any money. So I have to figure out a way to monetize this differently if I'm going to keep doing it. The other part is, okay, feedback that you get from people as you go along. That's why I will tell both of you guys, most businesses, when they say they don't become profitable for 4 or 5 years, that is actually true. Most businesses don't actually turn a net profit for 4 to 5 years. However, those that actually make it beyond 5 years. The other part they don't talk about enough is it sometimes takes a few years to figure out what path you want to follow. And you're going to try different things. You're going to try, like, I'm going to try this. Yeah, I did that and that kind of worked. I'm doing a little bit of this. My thing is, let's pick 1 or 2. Let's get that thing going, get some critical mass in it, make some money from it. Okay. Because then once it's running and it's moving, there are things you can keep it going. And if you have enough margin, you get someone else to manage it day to day. You automate it as much as you can to get someone to manage it. Then you can pursue something else. The problem is people go into like, I'll use, loosely say, I'm a carpenter. I do roofs. I do this. I do that. I do multifamily. I do single family. I do, small commercial. I do that. Dude, who are you? You're a jack of all trades, right? How can I introduce you to someone? Because let's face it, You're not going to do the roof at Lake Point Towers. Okay, you're not set up for that. But if you give me this kind of generic thing, but like, oh my God, I could do it. I could get a crew together. I could figure it out. I could spec. No, dude, that's not your niche, right? Stay the hell out of that. So on what I'm telling you, Rohit, and part of we're going to go through the step by step is start figuring out what you want your business to look like when it's operating and it's rolling on all 8 cylinders. What does your business look like? What does your team look like? What does your business look like? And what role do you see yourself playing in it each day, each week, each month? Really, and that's one of the things I'm going to have you write that down. That's a writer downer. Is I want you to sit down and say, all right, if I'm making, let's say you have a goal to make $250,000 in your respective businesses. I want you to write down, what does a $250,000 business, or whatever the number is for you, what does that look like? What teams do you have to have in place? What kind of systems do you have in place? And kind of begin with the end in mind. What does a really efficient, really effective handyman business look like if I'm cranking out 200 grand a year, 300 grand a year, 400 grand, whatever the net number is for you? You're going to have to think of, okay, well, my most profitable jobs tend to be these. So what if I did these types of jobs, then I'm going to need this amount of work to do it. I will have to do this amount of jobs per week, per month, right? And then I'll say, I'm going to need this amount of guys. Well, I'm also going to need this amount of people because half of them aren't super reliable. Do I put them full-time or they contract? What do I forecast as my turnover rate? Right. So like when I was buying real estate, we'd look in an area, let's say it was a buy and hold. I would say, all right, do a rental analysis in that neighborhood. Start finding out what things are renting for within 1 mile of there. Okay. What's the high? What's the low? And then based upon that, there's your market, right? It's telling you what the rental rates are. So I'm not going to, if rental rates are $1,500 a month, I'm not going to buy an $800,000 house in the middle of this neighborhood and expect to rent it. Maybe somebody will, but that's not the target market, right? So once I knew what the rental rates were, then I said, okay, I would do demographics. I would look at the typical job in that area. I would look at, okay, well, average incomes around this. A lot of factory workers, okay. And what's the economy looking like? All right, I'm going to factor in 1.5 months of vacancy. If I think it's a rougher area, I might factor in 15%, 20% of the rent might actually be deferred maintenance. Another 10% for management. I'd like to clear about $400 a month. So, and I have debt service, that's X. Break it all down, add the 400, back out the numbers. This is all I can pay for a house. Problem is, people, what they do is they're like, oh wow, that house is like 40 grand below what it sold for like 2 years ago. I got a lot of equity, but they don't do any of that other research, right? So when I had people looking, I said, I want to find prices of homes, let's say is $50,000. Well, there's no homes in that area for 50 grand. I go, well, if there is, let me know. If not, we're going to find another neighborhood. We've got to find another market. Does that make sense? I'm giving you examples of really how to dissect a strategy versus, hey, I want to find people that love to travel. Okay. I want to find people that on average travel 4 trips a year or 3 trips a year. They tend to be professionals with X amount of disposable income that want to take at least travel 3 or 4 times a year, because you're starting the US and Canada, but I'm just throwing spitballing this out there for you. You got Europeans and everyone else that holidays are just part of their culture, right? Now, you may not know the banking laws and everything else that gets into the cards. That's the part. So that's what I'm saying is figure this thing out here, but don't forget you got a big opportunity over there too. And there might be other alternative ways we'll discuss to come up with alternative revenue streams that can be passive, affiliate-based revenue streams that you don't have to actively be involved with, okay? Because you want to have multiple income streams, but don't do it too damn fast. Okay, that's what a lot of people do. Say, well, I could do this, I could do that. We were talking about this the other day. All right, what is the core business here? Let's get one. Every entrepreneur typically had their one base cash machine. That cash machine is what allowed them to finance and try all these other things out, right? So you have the advantage, you've got a job. Your job can finance your future. That's the way I look at it. You got a built-in bank. and it's a consulting thing, and you get to work from home. They're not watching everything you do every day. It's the best of all worlds. They pay you well. Even when you go to New York and have you're going to be connected to other people, and you can set up the stuff. And it's a great way to do it. And I'd say keep that as long as you can while this is growing. I hate so many people that jump too fast. All right. Now,
No, that's the plan. The plan is to milk my job for as long as I can.
Okay, absolutely. Now, Michael, when you're looking at the different jobs that you've done too, when you start thinking about, all right, I've done these kind of jobs. They typically take about this amount of time. This is typically what I price them out at. You should do, when you have some free time, do some market analysis just to constantly check so often, or you can have your wife do it or someone to help you with this. Hell, have your kids do it. Call around and say, hey, listen, I got this job. We're looking at it. Just trying to get some estimates of what it might be. Just start getting an idea of what other people are charging.
There's a website called HomeWise, HOMEWYSE, and it's pretty close in range. You get your zip code, and they'll tell you about what it costs to get stuff done.
Okay. Shoot, guys, hold on one second. Somebody's banging on my door. I apologize.
Okay.
Give me one second.
All right.
Okay, grab some water real quick.
Yeah, probably a good idea. He's pretending. He's testing us. He wants to see what we do. He's going to come back and watch the recording.
So whereabouts do you live?
Highwood.
Where's
So,
that?
it's between Highland Park and Lake Forest.
Got it. Okay, so you're up north.
Yeah, I always joke. It's where the help lives.
It's where the what lives?
Where the help lives. Highland Park and Lake Forest. This little square mile of like depressed land value, but we feed into Highland Park schools, and we're surrounded. Kind of got this insulated area. But it's my neighbors. I got landscapers, printer, HVAC guys, bricklayers. The staff at restaurant. All my neighbors.
Sorry about that, guys. It was my neighbor. They were trying to carry something up the stairs, and it was a piece of furniture, and she's trying to do it with her sister, and her boyfriend's gone, and they got stuck, and they're like right on my stairs, like, can you help us? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, let's quickly get. I said, I'm actually on a live webinar or live call right now. I'm so sorry. We're stuck and we can't get it. Anyway, all right, sorry. So you got HomeWise, you got different. There are Angie's list. There's a lot of things that are out there that can get some ideas. Both of you, and again, I'm going to throw out a bunch of things, but I want to try to take this thing step by step. Make sure whenever your businesses will grow, at this stage, when we talk about word of mouth, don't forget about third-party confirmation. Google reviews, Facebook reviews, LinkedIn reviews, whatever it might be. It's got to be reviews from somebody else, right? As my site is being rebuilt, I took an old site that I had. I shut down one. It's still actually up, but I'm not using it anymore. So I moved a lot of stuff to my old site that I built years ago. This is the one that's up there right now. But I put some video testimonials in there, and I have a direct link to some of my Google reviews if people can read some of those. Because having a testimonial on your website that Joe P from Punxsutawney, whatever, says 1% Travel Club is awesome. Okay, that's just bullshit. No one wants to look at that, right? Yet, if they see someone that they know and it's a third party piece, your business Yelp could be a good one. My business not.
I have a Yelp review from my
mother. All right, but here's the thing.
I wrote it.
Well, the thing is, though, that does nothing for my business, probably nothing for Rohit's business, but it could be huge for your business.
Oh yeah, Yelp calls me all the time. Hey, send us money so we can promote your
business. And I'll tell you, and I'll teach you some ways to use some of these things without having to pay their stupid fees and everything else like that. They're like, for example, if I ever hear somebody like boost your ad for $20 on Facebook, don't ever ever do that. Don't ever do that. It's an absolute waste of money. Total waste of money. Okay. Quite frankly, a lot of businesses shouldn't be advertising at all on social media. So what I want to get to is this. Number one is the most important thing this first week is I want you to have a really clear goal of what your business is going to look like in 1 to 2 to 5 years. So I've done this thing either by time limits, like 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Sometimes I say, what is the ideal, what would be, because again, by the way, don't throw out some stupid number because you think it sounds good, or you should say a big number. Pick out a number, for example, where I had somebody say, I want to make, $2 million a year. I'm like, okay, how'd you come up with that number? You know what they actually needed to live the high value life they're looking for? Hang on. Spill water. Okay, I need to clean up. No problem. They got down to the point where they needed about $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, because she was about to retire and get pension. And so really the difference is $5,000 or $6,000 a month. I go, where'd you come up with $2 million? I don't know. It just seemed like it was a big number and I could do a lot of things, but she had no idea what that number meant.
Right. She didn't know what it meant. Now it's a big number. And so now it looks like she's got to eat an elephant.
Yep. But there's this inherent pressure in these kind of environments sometimes. And there's a lot of people in the information selling space that make it sound easy. That's BS. It's a business. It's you versus you most days. It's not even you versus your competition. It's you versus you, right? So I want you to really sit down. Number one is identify what it is your enough, and this is kind of countercultural, but stay with me. What is your enough? What is, hey, when I have this amount coming in, I'm able to not only meet all my obligations, I can fund the initiatives I want to fund, I can donate to the charities and churches I want to donate to, I can travel the way I want to, I can get my debts paid off, whatever it might be. When I have X amount of dollars a month coming in, that'll set me up. Figure out what that number is. I want you guys to figure out that number. Then, because that is what you're shooting for, that is your number, and I want you to share that with me, right? And then once you write that down, then start backing it up to where are you today? Okay. Because begin with the end in mind. People say, well, I'm going to get there. I say, all right, what is enough? So we know, then we can start making more strategic decisions on, all right, when to implement a program, when not to, what you need to maybe budget to get a type of program that'll give you that kind of cash flow. Because again, the goal is I want you guys to be working shoulders up income, not shoulders down. Right. Now you're in a physical business right now. That is you. So everything good? Computer's still working. So that's always good. All right. So did you catch what I was talking about as far as the numbers and everything? Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I did. I actually I wanted to confirm something because you said business in 1, 2, or in 5 years. So you're talking about revenue there. And then you're also talking about what is like the minimum that you want to make.
Yeah, I said it can go one of two ways. I've done this thing both ways. Sometimes it's easier for them to come up with, here's what I want my lifestyle. So this is where lately I've been leading people. I said, tell me what you think your ideal lifestyle is. Like, all right, I want to live in this house. I'd like you to have it paid off. Or I want to have, my mortgage would be X. Or say, I'd like to have a mortgage of say 10 years. So I'd like to have it paid off in 10 years. All right. I'm not getting into the argument of do you pay off your house or not, cash flow. I'm not getting into all that. Just decide what that is. I'd like to travel X amount of dollars, X amount of times per year. I'd like to donate X amount of dollars per year. Figure out what that number is. There's your lifestyle number, right? And I'd also want to make sure that, and I encourage you guys, I'm going to encourage this all the time, there needs to be a generosity portion to your business and to your life. It's got to be bigger than you. One of the things that, with Rohit, with your generation, studies have been shown that people are 40+% more likely to go to work for a company if they have a cause they believe in, if they support a cause. So what do you support? If you're only talking about money, if you're only talking about, it's temporary. Stuff happens. So what you need is a loyal customer base. You need a loyal following. You need people that are going to be there for you when something doesn't go right. and something's not going to go right in your life. I did not know, and I knew Mike back in these days. I did not know I was going to get stiffed by a few people to the tune of over $1 million. Trust me, that was not in my business plan. I did not see that happening. And then it went down and went down fast, right? So you have to have a rainy day fund. One of the things I'm going to recommend. So here's the thing. Say if I want to travel this, and let's say my travel budget is, I don't know, $40,000 a year, whatever. I don't know, make up a freaking number, and then I want to have my mortgage. Let's say that's $3,000 a month, and then I've got my, we got kids' school. We need to fund that. We've got to, I'm trying to help out family. I want to donate at least 15% of my gross income to this charity or church or whatever it might be. Different things. I have a goal personally where we're in the next few years. I want to be able to donate 50% of my income away. I have a coach who's at 90%. Been living off of 10% for the last 14 years. Okay. Now that's a kind of a reverse tither in the world, right? There's no reason you can't do that. And every one of us could do that. It's just a matter of keeping your lifestyle in check or making sure you have the income. It's just margin. That's all it is, right? I will tell you a number. I'm going to walk you through something here. I just did this the other day. Tell me if you think this is helpful. So somebody gave me this number. Another person said wants to make $1 million a year. I said, all right. I said, what about 600? They're like, what? It's just a random number. I said, let's break that down. That's $50,000 a month. Let's say you have a really nice house or two. Okay. So you have a couple of nice houses. You got your winter and your summer place because they're here in the Midwest. Let's say, you got a couple of $1 million in real estate with taxes and everything else. That's going to run you about 18,000 a month. 19,000 a month, okay, for your two places. I'm going on the high end right now. So you're down to like, okay, you got 31,000. Take taxes out of that. If you do your tax rate, you're going to own it. You're going to have to tax. You're going to have at least 17, 18,000 left out of that, right? So you got 17, 18,000. So you're gonna buy a couple of cars, or you'll lease them, or you'll get creative. You learn how to use that stuff. You got to save some money. Let's say you're going to put 5,000 away per month or some sort of savings. Let's say even 7,000 a month or some savings. You're left at 10, 11,000. And then you've got, all right, well, you got your food, you've got your school, you got that. Let's say that takes another 4,000 or 5,000. You're down to another 4,000 or 5,000. You've covered all your expenses. You got your trips, you got all this other stuff. You still got a few grand left over. And you're funding everything. You're donating money away. Your stuff's getting paid off quickly. You've got multi-million dollars worth of real estate. And that's 50 grand a month, right? People throw out $1 million. They don't realize how much that is. And by the way, I just said 2 multi-million-dollar homes. You can live. I personally, that makes no freaking sense for me. At my stage, I don't want that. We'll have, when my parents pass, I'll probably take it, but I may buy it ahead of time. But we've got a decent property up in Wisconsin on an island, right? And just to have it costs 30 grand a year. Just roughly, just to have it. That's saying no major well needs to be redug, or if we thought it was going to happen last year, which was going to be 40 grand for a new well. You're like, okay, those are, those things happen, right? So think about that, put that number in place, and put a generosity quotient behind that. I will also tell you, when you can make that part of your culture, who you are and part of your culture, you will attract more people. It becomes more fun. It is actually more fun to give money away than it is to make it. Sure. And it's great to give it away anonymously. We're not doing it for recognition. Go ahead.
Yeah, question. So right now, like when I come up with this number, right now I'm single, like have no obligations other than some debt, etc. Right? Now, what comes to the point where, like, how do I take into account the fact that I want to be very soon, I want to get married and I want to have multiple children. Not very soon, but let's just say that's in the near future. And then, I also want to be able to take care of my parents, things like that. My parents are fine right now, but my dad just retired officially. And, I worry about that. He says he's fine, but there's that.
So some of this is, you're guessing on some of this.
Right.
Okay. You're guessing on some of this. Now, when they say where they're fine, how old's your dad?
67.
Okay, so he's 67. And what type of work was he doing?
He was a satellite engineer.
Satellite engineer. Okay. And have your parents lived fairly frugally in their life? or they live large?
No, I mean, I thought we were poor growing up. We were doing just fine, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are those families too. Like, well, I think you're really poor growing up, and your parents got $5 million sitting in the bank. You're like, what?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, my parents' home is worth at least $1.5 million.
Okay. But again, keep in mind, a primary residence sitting there is worth nothing to you because it's about cash flow.
Right.
So, there comes a point, the same thing with my parents. They've been debt free multiple times in their life. They have been for many years again. And I know that they have a couple of bucks in the bank, and we're very fortunate. We will probably never have to support them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But stuff happens. My dad just turned 80. My mom's turning 80. She just may have been diagnosed with something where we'll know soon, but what happens there, right? So to your point, to answer your question, start defining what, you can define what is like your next house. If you look at it in terms of 1 to 5 years, you're not going to buy your dream home in the next 5 years. That's silliness, right? And we're in a different time now. It's because we even buy furniture every few years. My grandparents and even, they bought the couch they had my entire freaking life growing up, right? And they had the house they lived in, and it was much smaller than the stuff we're looking at. So, Rohit, what I would do is say, all right, if I had a home, let's say it's, I don't know, 500 grand or 600 grand, pick up a number, decide where you want to. Obviously, New York, that's nothing. If you're going to live in New York, that'll buy you like a garage, an apartment above a garage. So put that number down. Right? No, it does blow my mind. Whenever I go to New York, I'm like, oh my God, Chicago's a freaking deal.
No, the kind of house that I want to live in New York is, and it's nothing extraordinary. Like, it's a townhome. It's a modern townhome. And like, it would cost like maybe 1.2 here. It's like 5 million there.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
So there again, you have to decide, for example, is New York where you want to retire? There's a reason New York, California, Illinois people are flooding out of these states, high tax, high cost states. Why do you think I'm looking at Indiana? I mean, it's close enough. And I just want to get away from some of the crap that we're dealing with. I love the city, but I hate how it's run. So I got to get out and vote on this thing, whatever that circus is going to come out today. But
I just saw a map of the states. The number one state people immigrate from in each state. So I'll show you state and what state they're in. So Missouri is number one, Illinois. Every state around Illinois that Illinois touches, except for Kentucky, is full of people from Illinois.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And what I hear every time I travel,
California is the whole west half of the United States, like Colorado.
Well, see, aside from tax and all that, for me, the main reason I'm like, because you're right, like the financially smart decision would be to stay here. That said, all of my family's out east in the New York area, and I'm originally from DC, and it's really easy to get to DC from New York. Yeah. So that to me, my family comes number one.
Absolutely.
So
that's what I want you to really think about. The foundation of my business is F5. It's faith, family, freedom, finances, and fun. And it's in that order. A lot of times people look at fun first and they wonder why their family and their freedom and their finances are shit, right? Because they live for the moment. So to your point, then that needs to be put into it. So maybe your housing or certain thing is going to be higher, right? So for example, living in Manhattan is more expensive than living in the Bronx. There's a big difference.
Live in Jersey.
What's that? Yeah,
Jersey cheaper.
Live in Jersey City. You got the whole status argument about all that stuff, and I don't want to live in Jersey City, whatever. So, all right. And again, that's going to be temporary things. There's, for example, I never thought I'd be in the city of Chicago for 23 years. I think I'd be here so long. Right now, I don't even own. I've sold it, and I've been renting because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. Okay, I don't want to do. I've thought about buying, but I was like, I'd rather dump extra money into my business and build it up, because that asset's worth a hell of a lot more than this asset on my balance sheet, but really is a liability called a house, especially now when things are coming down. They are coming down. Yeah. We're in a recession. I don't care what people say. So,
let me say, like, for me, buying a house is not a huge priority for me. Like, I'm fine. I know people say you're throwing away money on rent, but for me, I'm fine renting. Yep. Like for me, I would be happy with, like, for myself. And this is again when it goes like future with family and everything. But maybe I should just focus on myself for now. I would be happy. Like, my ideal apartment in New York would probably cost me 4,000 to 4,500 a month.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm settling for that. Like right now, I'm looking for 2,500 to 3,000, which I can afford. Question is, do I want to? And that's a different story. But
well, think about it. That you just hit on a big piece. That's why I wanted to jump in there. When you're looking at making big decisions like home, I am with you. Having owned a mortgage company, I talked hundreds of people out of buying a home that technically qualified because they weren't ready or their lifestyle was in a position. I go, there's a lot of what ifs going on in your life right now. I said, don't lock yourself into this big freaking debt. I don't give a shit if they call it an asset, and it's a debt, you know. And since they changed the tax laws in 18, you get the first $22,000. You're married, you know, file jointly, 20,000, or as individual. What is it, 14 or 12? I don't forget what it is individually. You're getting write-offs right away. That's why what you guys both have, and you have a huge advantage. I set up side businesses when I had my corporate job. I'm making mid-six figures in my corporate job, but I'm thinking, fuck, I mean, the amount of money I had left over, I'm like, good God, I'm getting hammered on taxes. So I had to have a side business. So my car became a company car, and my trips became business trips, you know, and so I had a good accountant, right? And helped me with all that stuff. So here's let me answer your question specifically. Figure out where you are. Maybe you want to look at the 12, you know, 36, 50, you know, kind of 50-month kind of time frame, 60-month time frame, and say, all right, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Because do you have an immediate prospect for someone to get engaged to soon?
No.
Okay. All right. So, but you know that will happen. You know, kind of like when people get married and they started a family, right? You have 4 of them. Well, traditionally speaking, statistically speaking, 1 or 2 of them at least will want to go to a university. So you start planning for that now, so you don't get socked with a $50,000 a year tab when you don't have the margin. That's why you put in your you know, your education funds and whatnot. So you can start putting some money aside for what if or when. Ideal scenario for financial independence long term, live off of 1 income. And that's purely keeping your lifestyle and your debt in check. That's really all it is. Because the people that live large and like to do all these other things, there's a lot of people, because something will happen in your life at some point that's going to put a strain on you. I don't know what's going to be. It could be a health, it could be a family situation, having to travel, whatnot. We have friends of ours that left Chicago, moved back to DC because their family in New York, he grew up in New York, but they were flying back, a lot of health issues with their family. They're going back and forth. And he had retired, took another job back, got to DC, got his income back up because he was hemorrhaging cash in his retirement, flying back and forth, trying to take care of family. So I get that. So factor that in, say, okay, I want to do that. And let's say that by the time you go to buy a house, you want to put down 25%. Maybe you say, I want to pay that thing off in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20, whatever. Maybe you don't, but just put a number to it. And let's say that, okay, that's going to be $8,000 a month or whatever the number is for housing, living, travel, whatever. Put that number in. You got your revenue, your business. Now your business is going to need expenses, has expenses. It needs investment. That's the other thing. People under invest, overspend. Okay. That's why the fun thing is down here. It keeps me mentally in check. So what I'd like to do is put together that's going to be on this home play. Put that together. Let me take a look at it. I'll give you feedback on it. Okay. Same thing with you, Mike. I want you to go through this thing and say, all right, here's what I think my business should look like. Here's what I think I'm going to need. Some of that's going to be inventory. Maybe you're doing just in time. Maybe you're buying it. Maybe if you niche it down, especially when you look at the last couple of years, I worked with a contractor. I said, we helped them niche in. I said, now, and I said, with my suppliers, I go, dude, can you buy some things in bulk right now? Because the prices were going nuts, right? I mean, supply chain just drove shit through the roof. I had another client, printer, same thing. Got them together, went to all his clients and said, if you pre-order now, we'll knock off 5% off your bill. Then he went to the mills to pre-order because there was a fine paper shortage during COVID. Because between the combination of the mills reducing production and then shifting everything to corrugated boxes, right? So I want you to sit down and say, all right, here's what I think it is. I'll give you feedback as I go over it. I'm also going to upload a couple of things into the Facebook group that you guys can download. One of this is goal setting for 2023. And there's a few questions I'm going to have you answer. One is, what are the top 3 things I want to achieve in my business in 2023? What do you want to what do you want to personally achieve? Because this is personal life. I'm big on work-life integration. Okay. What would make you proud of yourself in this coming year? List 3 challenges you anticipate in the year ahead, and what do you expect to be hard or difficult? And then what do I want or need to learn in the year ahead for my business? And where will you stretch and grow yourself personally in this next year? That's one of the things I'm going to have you work on. Okay. Now, and I want you to put that together and just answer that, but give some thought to it. This is only your life, you know, so this is what I really want to help you guys focus on. The other thing I'm going to give you too is another form. Let's see if I have it here. It's going to be, give me 1 second here. I'm going to open this up. It can be another form. Okay. It's called Becoming Your Own Ideal Client. All right. So what I'm going to show you is like, start thinking like a business owner, stop thinking like a marketer, start thinking like you're your ideal client, putting yourself in the client seat. All right. Process is going to help you get inside your client's head and allow you to influence them, effortlessly more than before. So things like, what is your market's biggest desire? What do they really want? Not what you think they want, but what do they really want? Why do they really want it? It's not just what would happen, but what would give them that, would give that to them. Like money gives them status and freedom, right? That's one of the things it does. What's their biggest problem or frustration? What's the frustrating obstacle that's holding them back? How is that impacting them emotionally? You want to get to the specific emotions here in the illustration, because people make decisions on emotion, not logic. They emotionally make a decision, then they logically try to justify it in their mind. Kind of like they make a decision, then they go make it right. Right. So I want you to think through, and there's going to be part 2. I've got a couple of things, a series of questions to go through. I really want you to think through this stuff, and this is going to help me help you. Right. And because the other thing we'll do probably next week or the week after is I'm going to have you go to all of your network with a question. Don't create your products and services. Find out what the hell your network wants. Right. One of the questions, the simple question is, if I could help you get one result and only one result in your business, in your life, with your travel, whatever it might be, what would that be? Now, I keep it general. I go out to business owners. I say, if I could help you get one result and only one result in your business in the next year, what would it be? That's where a lot of this came from. You'll get a lot of different answers, but you'll start to see some themes. You get at least 50 answers. That's a good sample size, and you'll get an idea of what the hell the market is saying they want. Not what I think they want. I'm going to create a program. I'm going to put a marketing plan together, and I'm going to go out and basically sell it to try to find people to buy it. I'm saying, this is my market. This is what I think. This is what they're telling me they want. Create the damn program. When I decided to do this, again, I still don't have a landing page for it or anything like that. I said, I'm going to call a few people. I had 4 other people that signed up, but then one of them kind of flaked out. I was fine. The other one, I said, no. The third one, I was like, no. And I refunded their money. The other one is going to be probably on next week. I'm 50-50 on somebody if I'm going to invite them into this group on the other one. But they were telling me what they want. I said, all right, here's what I need. You know what the number one thing was that I heard, and what they told me was they really need genuine help. I'm confused. And a confused mind doesn't buy. But if you're confused, your message is confused, and your confused mind never buys. So let's try to help you get some clarity. And this doesn't happen in 1 week or 2 weeks. It's going to be a combination of trying some things out over time and getting into a niche. And it's kind of, again, you got your hand, hold it loosely though, because this thing is going to kind of go different directions. All right. So we actually went a couple minutes over. I want to respect the time here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these in the Facebook group. Mike, have you joined that Facebook group yet?
I have put in to join the Facebook group. I don't know if it was an automatic admission.
Probably not. If not, I'll get you in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and upload these things. When you finish these things, upload them in the Facebook group. Okay. Because I'll be checking that each day. If you have a question, post it in the Facebook group, post it, in the comments. And that way I can, so for example, if I'm answering a question for you, Michael, about something specific for you, Rohit, you're going to see it and like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And I can help you with that. One other thing I'm going to recommend is, The world is filled with lots of freaking opinions and people willing to share them. You are making an investment in yourself, and I'm making my investment in you. So let me be the bounce things off of me. Okay. Don't go out and make decisions and come back and look for confirmation. Okay. At least bounce it off of me. That's why you're making this investment. Because one of the advantages, I may say like absolutely high five, jump on it, man. I might also say, here's some things you might want to think about before you do that. Or I'll help you explain why is that important to you. And the last thing I'll say is, and Rohit, there's something you said earlier, watch how you talk. Watch your self-talk. You know, I struggle with, write this down. Both of you guys, write this down. Up until now, I had a lack of clarity on this, or I struggled with this, or in the past, I struggled with blah, 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 up until now. You're drawing a mental line in the sand for yourself. So watch that, because that allows your brain, the reticulating activating system will start seeing opportunities where before it saw roadblocks. All right. So remember, up until now. And I will call you guys on that from time to time. Okay. As my coach calls it on me too. So, all right. Any questions? Last bit. Good first call. Yes. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Just want to make sure I got everything. So we've got like, what does it look like what does this business at this revenue look like in the future? Like, what does that look like? 1, 3, 5-year plans with money, come up with the ideal avatar, and then the exercises that you're gonna
really, you can either break this thing out in 1, 2, or 5 years, if that's helpful for you, or define your ideal lifestyle, put a number to that. Okay. And then say, how can I get my business to support that, to generate that? Does that make sense? Yeah. Define your life first and get your business to support it versus setting business goals randomly. There's got to be an end goal. And if it's defined around the lifestyle, what's your most important to you, you're more likely to stick and implement and stay with plans. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Michael, any questions?
I think I got it. I think
all right.
Stuff will be homework will be in the Facebook page. So
awesome. Yep. I'll drop that in here as soon as we wrap up this call. I actually got another call starting in 5 minutes. I got to run to the bathroom. So,
okay.
I will get that in there.
One more thing. Sorry. And all these exercises, do we post that in the Facebook group or?
Yep. Okay. Yep. And by the way, that's also why I had you guys sign an NDA. Stuff stays here. Be open, be transparent. There is no perfect people here. We all have opportunities. We have challenges. And the more transparent we are with that, the better. And it stays here. Okay. You're going to have some opportunities where you might need a handyman for something. Mike, you might need some, the travel stuff, or you might know some people. Be collaborative, right? You guys are investing your time and your money to be part of this, and take advantage of that. Don't take advantage of each other, but take advantage of the investment you guys are making, because I want to encourage that. Don't use each other, respect each other's time. Don't cross-talk, whatever. I'm the person you run things through first, and let me discuss it in the group, because I will have some individual feedback with you guys that you won't know, because my advice for Rohit isn't always right for you and vice versa, let alone some knucklehead you see on a 30-minute webinar online.
I'm going to burn my question for today. We had someone on, a couple of Joe. She moved to Tennessee, and she did a thing where you sent it to your customers after you did work for them, and it gave them it was like an interview question setup, and then if they were positive, then it asked them to give you a 5-star review on Google or whoever. Would something like that be worth going through? Because I only have 1 5-star review on Yelp. That's it.
Write that down. Let's talk. I have a whole strategy on that.
Okay.
We'll discuss it. You know what? I'll make that as a topic of customer review strategy. Okay. I'll make that one of our topics.
All right.
Yep. Cool. All right, guys. Great first call. I'm excited about it. Let's get things ringing. And Rohit, I got to get back to you to set up a follow-up time. I did go over your video and I looked at that stuff here. I got to get that stuff done because I do have one question. I have 2 questions actually on it, but I'll schedule a time. We'll make it quick. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. See you soon. Make it a great week.
You too.